She's the most beautiful bearer of the Marvel word. She has the power to manipulate all metals. Until the black hair dye that hid her identity came off in the shower to reveal her green hair. That's when she caught the eye of others. When she slowly turned around, her dark green hair revealed a hint of strangeness. Her eyes were so deep that they sent shivers down your spine. In the face of the strange stares from the crowd, she's used to it because she is Magneto's daughter Polaris. As for the reason for her imprisonment, we'll talk about it later. Please take a look at her ability and means first. Polaris has inherited her father's powers perfectly. She can control the magnetic field around her at will. Any metal is a deadly weapon in her hands. If someone accidentally messes with her, you'll have to accept your own fate. Take this bold kid for example. He knows that Polaris is a mutant, but he wanted to let her use her superpower. Polaris also agreed very cooperatively, only to see a little green light in her hand. The sports car outside the window immediately rose into the air. The young man was dumbfounded. He was grinning from ear to ear. Polaris slammed the car into the ground and sends it into early retirement. The boy is furious. Polaris smiled contemptuously, as if to say this is what happens when you provoke me. But even though she was gifted, she is still at the bottom of the social ladder. She spends her days in hiding, because in a world where ordinary people coexist, her life as a mutant is a sin in itself. Faced with the police's siege, Polaris does not intend to sit back and wait for death, only to see her hands turn with force, instantly destroying all the police cars. I thought they would back off. I didn't expect them to be more violent. They were shooting wildly at Polaris inside. Polaris had to unleash her superpower again. She disarmed the pistols of two policemen, although she can control the direction of the bullets, but she didn't want to kill anyone, so she used the police car to trap them. But this is not a long-term solution. Then her boyfriend stepped forward. His hands emitted a blinding white light. The police were blinded. They took the opportunity to escape from the factory, but someone shot him in the back. The boyfriend was wounded and fell to the ground. Polaris saw this and lost control of his emotions. We tried to restrain ourselves from planning conflicts, but what about them? She used her powers to vent her anger one by one. Her boyfriend warned her not to fight, but the angry Polaris did not listen to the advice. She smashed the cop against a dumpster with all her might, but she was shot with a taser, and that's how she ended up in jail. What's even worse, it was the police who fired the first shot. She was charged with attempted murder, plus the heavy penalty for mutants. She was sentenced to death, but Polaris didn't panic, even though the prosecutor hypocritically told her that a confession to an accomplice could reduce her sentence. She laughed it off, because death would be a relief for her now. She told him to go away. Let him go as far away as he can. But the prosecutor had the audacity to approach the glass ball cage. Polaris laughed. Didn't you say I'm an attempted murderer? Then I'll show you what attempted murder is. She sensed that the prosecutor had a steel nail in his knee, so she controlled the steel nail to stir up his body. The prosecutor couldn't stand up because of the pain, but the prosecutor took out a report. Polaris' face became tense. She would never have thought the prosecutor was so despicable as to use the child to force her to confess. Polaris was completely furious, and her reckless behavior would usher in an even heavier punishment. The prison guards transferred her to the infamous Lake Prison.